Boom.
Hey, welcome.
Hey, we made it.
Hey, everybody, welcome to the Don't Worry Wednesday show.
Hey, I'm
Joe's your
hosting this
host.
one.
But he's decided to remain silent during this section of the show. Please,
of the introduction.
please be patient with us while he explores the idea of silence.
Oh man, well, it's not going to be a very interesting stream if we remain silent. I don't think.
I don't know. I think so. I would love it. I would love it. I would honestly, if that happened, and I was a viewer, I would just start laughing hysterically. Like I am impressed at how long they just kept that silence. But I think that not everybody has that kind of humor.
That's true. And then too long, and then you just
Mm-hmm.
people be like, yeah, there's nothing going on here.
Yeah, you just lose. You just lose.
I'm in here.
That's true. There has to be a certain point where you break it, but it has to be just long enough where it's funny. Yeah, it's
Right.
a hard thing.
There is a weird. There's like a threshold in there. That's
a threshold. That's a good word for it.
Right. But anyway, welcome everyone to Don't Worry Wednesday. It's great to see you all here. What was that, Ryan?
I said, oh, is that what we're doing?
Oh yeah, we are. Totally. Yeah, and now I'm all off track because Ryan interrupted me.
I'm sorry. We can start over from the top. Jesse, close
It's
it
okay.
down. Put it on for 3 minutes.
Hey,
we'll go when it says start soon.
Or we can just skip all that. Be like,
okay, let's do that.
Welcome. Yeah. Welcome, everybody. It's Don't Worry Wednesday, the Wednesday edition, which is the only edition we have right now. And yeah, welcome. It's great to have you all here. We're excited to be here. This is a great show. This is a show where we handle any issues or challenges you may be having. You can feel free to post them in the chat. You can email us, dww@bss.studio. You can post them. You can post them on our website, bss.studio. And Princess is putting the links down there as well. You can also message us on Discord and reach us there as well. If you'd like to remain anonymous, please just put in your message that you would like to be anonymous. Best place to do that would be either on Discord or through the email, dww@bss.studio. Yeah, we're not professional therapists or counselors or anything like that. We just want to be your friends. And we want to offer some love and encouragement, perspective, and maybe a little bit of advice along the way. We know that you can likely figure a lot of this stuff out on your own, but when you're in the middle of stuff, it can be hard to see the light through all the nonsense. And I have recent experience with that. So Ryan and I still deal with this. Probably not Ryan, actually. But I still deal with issues that I have to struggle through, and I think, I was asked one time, how we were, what makes us think we're qualified to do a show like this? And I was like, because I've failed so many times.
That's true.
I've run into lots of challenges and I've messed a lot of things up, and I've had to learn from those things. And
yeah, I think it takes a certain kind of mind to be able to go through all those things and then start to figure out, oh, I'm learning lessons through this, right? Because sometimes you just go through a lot of stuff and you never learn anything.
Right. Yeah.
Your mind has to be in the right place to go like, oh wait, there's just things that are happening here for a reason. I can pick up a lot of information. So yeah, it does take a little bit more than just going through stuff. But I'll tell you what, if you don't go through the stuff, you have no idea a lot of times how to deal with any of it. A lot of times the things that we talk about are just things that we messed up before and then figured out along the way that we were messing it up,
Yep. Now maybe some of the details would be different, some of the little things here and there, but a lot of the principles are the same.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, I've gone through therapy before. I've had psychiatrists and all that stuff. And I tell you, what makes a huge difference why you go through that is to have somebody that can just be your friend and love you and encourage you. while you go through it. I mean, it's so helpful to just have that voice, and we hope that we can be that voice for you as you journey through whatever challenge you may be going through. I'm Joe, and above me is Ryan, Static P. Our
Hey,
producer is Jesse. Our chat room hostess is Princess Yellow. She keeps us on track. Jesse turns us off and back on again, and make sure everything's going good technically.
Yeah.
If you go to bss.studio, you will see that we have scheduled server maintenance coming up this weekend. So the website will be down for a couple of days. It's actually, the server is moving.
Yes. It's getting up, it's growing feet, and it's going towards a different location. And only one of those things is true.
That's right.
Jesse's moving it.
Yep.
But yeah.
So, and hopefully once it's moved, then we can improve your experience at bss.studio, and hopefully that will go well. So anyway, we have some stuff here that we can go through. Let's see. Whoa. All right. So I'm just going to go through a list of some of these old ones here. And then, but I do know that Matt, also known as Swilk, has one on here that was posted on our website. So anyway, if you hear your name, say hi in the chat, post a smiley face, do something, whatever. Knox, Amira, Nathan, Bakugo Lover, Sunryusuke, Karma, Rose, Random, Akil, Purple Husky 8, 15th Ghost, Brandon, Sparrow, and Swilk. And if you just heard your name listed off, you have a topic in our queue that we patiently wait for you to be here for us to handle that. So
nice.
Yeah. So we've got here, we have Swilk and Akil. You know what?
Yeah. Akil immediately just says, "Yo, Matt, would you like to go?"
Akil, you are so awesome.
He's amazing. He's so
I
fast.
gotta tell you, Akil, you always post such profound stuff, and then anytime we say your name, you're always like, "Hey, have this other person go before me." So one of these days, we're just gonna do yours.
We're not even gonna say your name. We're not even gonna read it off. We're gonna start it.
That's right.
And we're just gonna do yours, and you'll be like, "Wait, this sounds like something I wrote." And then, oh, wait. Then you'll have to pay attention.
Yep. So just so you know, Akil, today is that day.
Oh, snap.
Ooh, what? Because I'm the host, and I can choose.
With the most.
Matt kind of waited longer. Dude, you've got one from like July.
Yeah, but he hasn't been waiting for it.
So I will give you the choice, Akil. I will give you the choice to either speak up or not, but you have two. You've got Sage of Roughland and one called Stagnant. And so, oh, you still haven't finished the question. You haven't, wait a minute. I'm so confused. You haven't finished the question on which one? Well, okay. Wow. But I tell you, some of these, Stagnant is kind of a diary of despair. It's growing. It certainly is. I just went to it and I was like, wow, look at this thing. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 posts. So we may, you know what, Akil, today might not be that day actually, because we might have to summarize this.
I think we talked about that before, needing to summarize it. Yeah.
Well, we did that with another one,
Yeah. You're right.
and we actually did it. So
Yeah.
okay, maybe you're off the hook for now. I tell you what, when you finish your question, you let us know.
You better finish it and let us know. This
Yeah.
is due tomorrow, but no, I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna tell you what to do. It's your question, but
Yep.
oh, thank you, Saiki. I'm very sexy. Thanks.
Akil. Yeah. Okay. We'll do Swilks first tonight.
All right.
I will tell you. Ryan is absolutely 25 years old.
Sometimes I look 16 though.
You do when you shave. Ah, who's the 16-year-old?
Yeah. I go get a hat. I'll look like I'm 16. I'm not kidding. I put a hat on, shave my beard, I'll look 16. Maybe 18.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts.
Yeah. All right. So yes. So we will start with Swilks here. So let's see. That's right here. Boom. I beat Princess. Yeah. So all right.
It's an
So
accomplishment.
this is posted by Swilk. His name's actually Matt.
Yes.
And
Let's do it.
yes.
Every time I
And
see your profile picture, man, it's so good. I don't know. It's just so classy. I love your profile picture.
it is. Matt is quite the graphic artist. He's posted some suggestions to kind of upgrade our website, and I really like all of his visions for that. It was really cool.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah. So I'd like to implement some of that. We just got to figure out how.
Me too.
And yes. So anyway, so this is from Matt, and it reads like this. Hey all. So school started quite recently, and lately I've realized just how competitive I am with others. For a little context, I've been focusing more on preparing myself for the future ever since August or so. I've been disciplining myself to draw and be productive more regularly. That was going okay enough. So at the end of the summer, I felt pretty good about myself. That means that when school started, though, me juggling that other stuff makes doing schoolwork a lot harder. I still study. There's just much more confusion and panic during lessons of trying to understand the subject well now, particularly in history and chemistry. And that makes me feel like I'm falling behind, which my brain doesn't like. My competitive drive kicks in, and my mind tells me, come on, you're supposed to be better than them. I don't know. It's just difficult to not want to outdo other people on math knowledge and stuff like that, even though I know I'm probably not going to use a lot of it in the future. Definitely not history or chemistry. I'm in a pretty nerdy class of a pretty nerdy school too, so that doesn't help. So at the end of the day, I'm either left feeling left behind and doubting myself, or having to focus on improving on more stuff every day. And that is from Matt. So wow, so I definitely see where you're coming from. It's competing with others can, man, I think we all deal with that from time to time, some of us more than others. And I've definitely gone through seasons where I have felt like I needed to compete with other people. And yeah, so I totally know where you're coming from. But I'm going to turn it over to Ryan, and I would love to hear what he has to say about this. So, Ryan, take it away.
Yeah, that's So, or Matt, I don't know, whatever you want to be called. I really like um how well you see this in yourself. Like, I like that you've noticed it and thought about it and just kind of considered it and realized different things about it. Like, you realize that you are being um competitive in a way that isn't necessarily helpful towards your current life nor the life that you are aiming for. And I think that's brilliant because a lot of times I think that a lot of us don't really even think about that. We just kind of have that sort of competitive edge, and we're not necessarily thinking about, is this competitive edge good for me? Is this competitive good for me in this scenario? And where does it lead me to? I think is really awesome. And I think it shows a lot of brilliance and that you're very wise um, for thinking about that kind of stuff. I think as well, competitiveness, I think, as you would know, is a very good thing um, in the right situation. There's a such thing as, um, let's see, there's a such thing as, it has a certain term, but it's when you are competitive with somebody in order for that both people strive to become better, but are in no certain issue of relationship.
Mm,
Like two friends trying really hard to beat each other, but it all being in good fun. Um, you know, and that can be a really great thing. But at the same time, if it just gets you stressed out, and that's really like the only thing you see, the only fruit you see coming from it, then at that point, it's not really worth much, right? So yeah, you have to discern, and I think you are doing that already. What is a good competitive spirit and what is not? Um, and I think that you're already going down the right road there. I think that's awesome. Um, you're juggling all of this kind of stuff, and I'm just proud of you and impressed by you because that's a lot of work that you're putting on your shoulders for the sake of who you want to become in the future, and I think that's really awesome. Um, yeah, you might not necessarily use a whole lot of chemistry or history in the future. It depends. You might find yourself needing it. You might not. It's one of those things where, like, for example, currently I'm working on a story, and the story is not set out to come anytime soon. But the story is set in an entirely different world, and I'm designing the world not from the ground up, but designing the world to be like completely different than ours. Um, but in order to do so, I want to make sure the physics inside that world actually work. And
mm,
so I have to study the physics in our world. I have to make sure the chemistry in that world actually works. So I have to study the chemistry in our world. And so sometimes when you are being a creative person like yourself, you're very creative in your arts, you have to you have to spend time investing in the outside world in many different fields that you wouldn't expect. Um, I noticed that this is very true in writing stories, but it's also true in producing music. It's also true in drawing and illustrations. Um, you'll find that the more you study and the more you know, the more capable you of the capable sorry, the more capable you are of manipulating and getting things um, keeping things interesting. So I say all of that just to help you understand that just because you don't necessarily see yourself using history or chemistry or things like that in the future, um, and you aren't going to use a lot of it, you gain and remember some nuggets from those classes that you'll think about like 10 years down the road and be like, oh yeah, that was from my history class or whatever, and you're able to utilize that for whatever you're working on, for whatever you're doing. So what I mean by all of this is don't consider it loss.
mm.
Um, And I'm sure you don't, but yeah, it's uh, even though you don't necessarily see like a whole lot of use for it, it's not lost time. It can be very helpful and useful to you in the future. And you wouldn't know until you get there, really. But yeah, so anyways, kind of just rambling, but um, I suppose your question is, um, I guess you have a couple questions in here in a way, but a lot of things to talk about. But I think your main question here is, what do you do about this competitive edge that you feel, this competitiveness? Noticing that you're competitive, how do you react to it and what do you do about it? And I would say, of course that's up to you, but um kind of just go as you're already doing. You're discerning what is a good competitiveness and what is not. If you're playing a game and you're getting all worked up over it and you start getting like aggressive, right? That's not healthy, right? But that's competitiveness and it's frustration,
Mm,
it's stress, it's all of these things, but it derives from things not going your way. I think the desire to be better than others, right, can cause stress on us because we know that we're not.
mm,
A lot of times, stress simply comes from things not going our way. And when you want to be better than others, that's not going to happen. You're always going to be stressed out.
mm,
So, kind of like you pointed out, to not desire to be better than others would lead you down a path of peace. So, how do you obtain that virtue? That virtue is called humility. Humility is not putting others before you. Humility is understanding the value of others and acting towards that appropriately, and the value of yourself and the value of all material goods in the world in their right order and place. That's humility.
mm,
Living that out, putting value where value belongs, putting time where time belongs. That's humility. And understanding that when you look at another person, you say, "Wow, they're talented in that." If you can learn to celebrate the accomplishments, if you can learn to celebrate where other people excel and you don't, man, that will be a game changer, right? Because then you look at somebody and you say, "Wow, you're really good at this," right? You're really good at this, so I don't have to be.
mm,
And honestly, that's how it is in the real world that we live in. Inside school, everybody's, put in through the same program. But once you get out of school, you get a job, you get, if you start building your own company or your own business, whatever, or you start whatever, any project you work on, you can look at your co-workers, your co-project workers and say, wow, I am so glad that you are good at this because I don't want to be good at that. I don't even want to touch that. I'm
mhm.
so glad that you are into that thing. Like um um Joseph Bohan or Bohan. How do you want to pronounce
Mhm,
his last name? He does accounting.
mhm.
No thanks. I'm so
Eh,
glad that that's
He's
not
like
me.
super excited about it too.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's
Yeah,
awesome.
he's good at it, and he's glad to be doing it and
Yeah.
excited about that type of stuff. And like his mind just works like that. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. In his mind is works. My brother, he is also a numbers guy. He's amazing.
Hmm.
I said my brother, I was kind of talking a little bit about him in chat. My brother went through calculus and then AP calculus, and then he did something called AB calculus, or maybe it was BA calculus. I don't remember. Anyways, then at that point, he started teaching the calculus class while he was still in high school.
Oh my gosh.
So that's my brother. He's great with numbers. He loves to do research, and it's incredible. And he remembers it all. I'm like, how do you remember this stuff? He remembers it all. It's
Yeah.
incredible. I'm glad I don't have to. BC Calc? Oh, it could be AB and BC. Yeah, yeah, that's it. Yep. AP, AB, and BC. I think that's right. Yeah. So, anyways, my point here is this. You if you want to get rid of your competitive spirit because it's just making you stressed out, then rejoice and embellish and focus on the good of others. Because when you can see how good they are at something, and you're like, man, that is so good that that's okay if they're better than me. It's so good that they're good at it. Because I don't have to be in this world.
Hmm.
That's something they get to do. And I don't want to. Anyways. So yeah. Anyways, that's what I've got to say about that. And I know I've talked for a while now, so I'm gonna let Joe handle it.
You didn't talk for very long, Ryan. You always say you talk for a while.
Look at that block
I mean,
of
a
sound
while
there.
is an arbitrary value, like
Oh, Joe, Joe, do
what?
you know how many measures that was? 820? Do you know how many measures that was?
A lot.
120 beats
Yeah,
per minute. Yeah, it was
it's
a
a lot of
lot.
measures.
That was like 5 to 8. That's nearly 300. That's more than 300 measures of
That's
speaking at
I'm
120 beats per minute.
I'm
Second, I
impressed.
mean,
Good job.
minute. Yeah.
That's
Thanks.
very impressive.
It's your turn.
Okay, it's my turn. So anyway, first of all, thank you for posting, Matt. I really appreciate you, finding us and then being a part of the community, being a part of BSS.studio and posting and everything. It's really awesome that you're here.
Yeah, it's good to
And
see you.
yeah, and competitiveness, it's really, as Ryan was saying, it's kind of a double-edged sword. It can be used for good or bad. It's like so many things in life. Like you have a way to use it that's productive and a way to use it that's destructive. And competition is no exception to that.
Hmm.
And I think really the question to ask yourself is, where's your heart in all of this? And I spent so much of my life like looking at other people and thinking, I'm not as good as them. I don't, and it would frustrate me. And then I just have this negative, jealous type of
Oh
attitude,
yeah.
like,
Oh yeah.
like,
Been there.
man, like I should be that good, and I'm not that good, but I should be, and I ought, and what, and what you really got to watch out for is when you start saying, well, they're not that good because they're not good at this or that or whatever, and I'm better at them than this or that, and then when you start kind of going down that road, then you're competitive. That's a really good indicator that your competitiveness is becoming destructive.
Hmm.
Now, if it fosters thoughts like, I can be better and I'm going to get better, and there's a pathway for me to get better, you know what? That person that's better than me, they might know that path. Maybe I should ask them. That's a humbling thing. As Ryan
Mm-hmm.
was talking about with humility, that's a very humbling thing to, come to grips with and be like, this person that I'm competing with, I recognize that they're better than me at this right now. Can I swallow my pride enough to ask them for their help?
Yeah, that takes a lot of strength, a lot of humility.
That's a big step, and I'm not always at that point. In fact, a lot of times I'm not.
Yeah, we're
You know,
always kind of waving on that line a little bit.
yeah. But there's a great book. It's called Wooden. It's by a basketball coach, John Wooden. He was
Oh.
he was an extremely successful basketball coach. Now he didn't start off that way, but one of the things is very interesting. He was a coach of UCLA for years, and he one of his things was they never had a really good team in the beginning, like in the beginning of his career, and he focused on basics, and the score of the game never really he never really got riled up about the scores of the game. What he focused on was doing better today than you did yesterday? Can you perform better now than you were then? And it doesn't have to be a lot. It can just be a little. But are you improving? And that's where competition with yourself comes in. And that's the most important kind. Now you can compete with others, and it's great. And you can sharpen each other's saw, as it's been said, where like that's what that healthy competition can do, because you're competing against each other, and it drives both of you to get better and better and better and to improve in what you're doing. And you see that person, and it's just like, oh, they got me this time. Well, I'm going to get you next time, and you can kind of, go back and forth, and you have victories and losses along the way. But the whole way you guys are getting better and better and better, right? Now, if you can take that and you can look at yourself and compete with yourself, that's a great thing, because then you always have that little bit of an edge to you where you're like, I'm going to be better than I was yesterday. And you can look at what you did on a certain day. That's why I would recommend journaling, and I would also recommend, doing some reflection, if not daily, just on a regular basis, to reflect on where you are, what you're accomplishing. And that's one thing why I really enjoy your post here, is because there's a lot of reflection going on here. And I think that's awesome, where you're looking at yourself and you're looking at, okay, things were a certain way during the summer. Now school's started, things are a little bit different. I got to adjust, there's things that I need to do in order to, how can I stay on top of my game here? And that's really cool, because now you've taken that and you've reflected on what's going on. So then the question becomes, how can you get better in these areas? Can you adjust your schedule? Can you do more of a certain thing and less of another thing? Are there things that you're doing that are a waste of time that could just be set aside for now? Are there things that aren't a waste of time, but they're good things that just take up time, and they're not the great things that you need to be doing? Can those be set aside temporarily while you focus on the things that are great in order to improve those areas? And these are questions that I've wrestled with a lot lately. A lot. We've got so many things going on, and it's ridiculous. School started for me. I've got 2 kids in school, and so school started, and like,
Man, your kids are busy too.
they are.
They're signed up for everything and more.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
It's nuts. I won't go into everything, but there's martial arts, there's gymnastics, there's my oldest son started piano lessons.
Did he?
Yep.
Seriously?
That's awesome. Really cool. Yep.
That's
great. He had his first piano lesson on Monday. So yeah, so that we're in this a whole bunch of stuff going on thing, and we're trying to figure that out, as we go. And I'm like, okay, I'm starting to look at our schedule, and I'm like, what things are absolutely necessary here? Because you don't want to just burn yourself out either. If you work yourself like crazy, you're not going to get much of anything done, because you're going to be exhausted. So there has to be a point where you're like, all right, I have to learn how to let some things go in order to excel in the things that are important for me to excel at. And those can be really, really tough decisions, especially if you're competitive with other people in certain areas. And maybe that's one of the areas that's on the chopping block, and you're like, this one's not really the great. This is a good thing. It's not a great thing. But if I let this go, then this other person's going to really pass me. Or there's going to be some kind of, well, why aren't you coming around anymore? Why aren't you doing so much of this anymore? And, you know, those questions kind of can come in. But, man, that's part of life. And if you want to be great at stuff, then you got to pick those things you want to be great at, focus on them, and then make those your priorities, and then fit everything else in around them. School is definitely a priority. And I think preparing yourself for the future is way definitely a priority. How can those things coexist? And how can you use competition to make yourself more effective in those areas? So then the time you spend in those areas, you're doing more and better with the time that you have. And that's where focus comes into play. That one of the things that's great about competition is it helps us to really focus on how we're going to get better. You know, the reason that if you hold up a piece of paper and you beat it with a spoon, the paper is just going to flop around, right? But if you hold up a piece of paper and you stab it with a knife, the knife goes right through the paper. And the reason is because the energy from the spoon was spread out over a larger period, over a larger, you know, surface. But the energy from the knife was right at this tiny little sharp focused point. And so the point is, the point, haha.
Pun intended.
Yes. The more you focus, the more effective you can be. And I know I went in a few different directions with all that, and I hope some of that helped. But as I was reading through your post, these were the things that were coming to my mind. I'm like, wow, you know, there's a lot going on right now, and I can relate a lot to it with stuff going on in my life. And so I just wanted to share with you some of the stuff that I was, you know, asking myself and how I was kind of going through these thoughts. So, haha, good point. Nice to see we're all punny people. So anyway, that's pretty much what I have. Ryan, did you have anything else
No.
you know to add?
You're looking sharp. Your words cut like a knife. No, no, I don't really have anything. I think that everything that could be said that's said, at least on my end.
Yep, Matt just changed to a different school, so I guess
Oh.
I'm worried. I'm too worried about my first impression as well.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that's yes. Now
Bon
here,
rapport. Yeah, thank you. That's the right word, princess.
I understand that thought as well. Obviously, making a first impression with others is good. But I think one of the things, if you really compete with yourself and just try and do better every day, and pick some of the areas to do better in, you know, whether it's dealing with other people or art or math or history or chemistry or whatever, pick a subject or pick a few, you know, and just kind of monitor how you're doing. And if you start to see yourself slip, ask yourself, how can I do better? What can I do to do better? If it's a subject in school, I mean, that's one of the reasons your teachers are there. You can ask them, you know, hey, I'm struggling in this area. Do you have any suggestions? you know, that might help. Now, you don't necessarily have to do that in front of the class. You can, pull your teacher aside later, because I don't know, sometimes it's embarrassing to go and, talk to your
Mhm.
teacher when the whole class is there. I know I got made fun of a lot, so I understand that whole aspect of things, but um at any rate, that's one of the reasons they're there. They're there to help you.
Mhm.
And most teachers like to do that. There are some that are there to just collect a paycheck, but a lot of teachers are there because they love teaching. And the school system's set up in a way where they can't really teach all that much. And for you to come ask them for suggestions, that's them being able to do the thing they wanted to do the whole time, which was teach. So that I
Well,
bet you
well said.
there are a few teachers there that would be really happy if you did that. Um, but I'm not saying you need to do that or anything. I'm just saying that's something that might come depending on the circumstances. So, anywho,
Yeah. I like Prince's comment about it. Just be yourself. That's how you attract the best people. That's
mhm,
true. You know, trying to be impressive to everybody is not how you gain friends. In fact, more so often it's the opposite. Being impressed by people is how you gain friends.
mhm,
Um, Pointing out the amazingness of other people is how people come to like you.
mhm,
So yeah, don't, obviously it's almost human nature to worry about how the people think of us, if we're being impressive or not to others, especially when we're making a first impression. But if we can get over ourselves a little bit and just focus on how can we be the best us, like Joe is basically talking about, then we have nothing to worry about, because all we can be is the best us, and anything different is not useful,
mhm.
um is not necessarily good. So yeah.
Yep. And if you're not being yourself and you attract some friends, then they're not really friends with the real you because you're not being yourself.
Fair.
So it's way better for you to just be yourself. And then you'll attract the people that like you
Mm-hmm. Yep. The
for
people
you.
that you'll be comfortable with. Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks for the questions. So you're awesome.
Yeah. Absolutely.
We appreciate you.
Yep. And hopefully that was helpful for you. I know some of
Mhm.
my stuff was a little bit random and
Mine was
all
too.
over. Yeah. But yeah, there
Brandon's here.
there's a lot going on in your posts. So thanks.
Hmm.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw Brandon popped up here.
Yeah, he's got one, and
Hello,
Sparrow does too.
Brandon. You do. And Sparrow. Yep. Sparrow is here, is here.
Sparrow is here. Is here. Nice.
Yep. So Brandon, you have one that's been yeah, thank you, Swilk, for posting.
Yeah.
And yeah. Brandon, we've been waiting for you to come back. I
He did
remember
come back for a short second one other time, so it's nice that he came
yeah.
back again. Yeah, I think it was last week. Yeah, last week he came back for at the end of it, and we weren't able to do much, but yeah.
Yep. Brandon, you have a topic and I do like your topic because I feel fairly strongly as well about this situation. Um so we're gonna move to yours since you're here and you would be next in line.
Oh,
And there it is.
nice, nice.
So all right. So this is from Brandon. It's called Reforming Education. And yes, it goes like this. I am trying to reform the USA education system, but I encounter many problems because fixing the system is intensive. I see many problems with the system, but it is hard to convince the majority of students. How can I fix a system that everyone conforms to? The majority of people buy into the system. Of course, not all believe it is perfect. Our government spends $650 billion on the school system, yet it is insufficient. If we change one thing in a broken system, it is still broken. I want to abolish it. I'm currently writing a PhD style thesis, and I plan to work with several professors. Many professors have been talking on the internet about this problem. I have to change it now. Man, I feel like the system is deadlocked. I don't even think governments will reform on such a scale, nor on a tiny scale. And that is from Brandon. And Brandon, man, I tell you, I am right there with you, because I think there is a lot wrong with the system that's there. It was designed to do things a certain way to prepare people for a world that unfortunately does not exist anymore.
That's fair.
And and it's very interesting. But there's a lot I could say about that, and also ways to fix it. And I'm with you. I don't know if there's a way we can get people to change it, but we can educate people. We definitely can, and we can do it in a way that's helpful. And I'm going to turn it over to Ryan, and I'm going to hear what he has to say, because Ryan has educated me in a great many things.
Okay, well, I think that goes both ways.
Well, maybe,
Yeah.
but so Ryan, what you got?
I mean, I can give it my best shot. Yeah, this is a really interesting problem. How do you go to something that is such a large scale, something that's spread across the entirety of U.S., including also um, other um, countries? It's not just necessarily the United States educational system that's broken. In fact, you could say worse things about some other ones out there. How do you reform such a worldwide system, um, and have anybody listen to you, right? And have it actually change anything? It is a really difficult thing, right? Um, and and yeah, you're right. We can educate people, but you need mass awareness. But even mass awareness doesn't necessarily change anything, right? Here's a great example. People are well aware that there's such thing as evil. Doesn't change anything. People are well aware of it. It
Mm-hmm.
still happens. People still choose to do bad things. People even knowingly are like, yeah, this is a bad thing. I'm going to do it. Right. That's just how sometimes things are. I don't think that mass awareness necessarily always solves stuff. In fact, a lot of times it doesn't. You have mass awareness about things like texting and driving. And then it's become a law now that you're not allowed to text and drive. But you pretty much get the same percentage of people doing it.
Mm-hmm.
All of the ads on TV, scare tactics, billboards, etc., they don't usually change a person's desire to text and drive. And what you end up with is maybe a few people who choose not to because they're made aware of it and they go, oh, okay, yeah, this is not the right thing to do. And so you have a few people convert to not texting and driving. But then you also have a problem of the school system isn't just a few people converting. It's something where everybody has to convert at the same time. Everybody has to get on the same page and work
Mm-hmm.
together and come up with a new system. So, yes, I see your dilemma. And your desire is basically we have to abolish it, right? I'll tell you this though. Don't lose hope. Here's one thing. If you look over the concept of teaching over our history, human history, you can look at many different cultures around the world and notice that things shift from time to time. Things change ever so slowly into something new. Um, in ancient China, they used to teach people how to write. Um, so originally, they wrote, and it was very sophisticated, and all of the lines were had to be curved a specific way, and etc. Then they simplified their writing system in order to teach it to other people. And what they did is they made it so that they could take sticks, like wooden sticks that they could gather from, the yard,
Hmm.
and then they would put them down on the ground in front of their children and say, "Hey, I'm putting these two sticks next to each other with this one in the middle and this one on top. That is the word sun." And they're like, "Oh." And it's like, "Now you try it." You just mix up the sticks and like, "You try to build the word sun." Okay. And they're like, "Okay, I think you did this, right?" And it's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, you got the idea." So China went from teaching, well, not teaching it at all, to teaching only a few people, right? To teaching masses of people by this new system. It started out with only a few people, though, only a few teachers that were higher ups that were teaching their children. And then that slowly spread, right? Then from there, from that point where now all of a sudden people are teaching, like everybody's teaching their children, or you have a master who teaches a lot of children, that becomes a profession that never existed before, but now it's a profession and they call it a teacher. Where it wasn't even a thing before. It was, I guess it was an exclusive job just for royalty, but then it became a new thing where, hey, you could go and get a job because you know how to write to teach other people how to write. And then, that transformed over time into something completely new. And then they adapted that into teaching their militaries and stuff. And they adapted that into teaching not just writing, but all sorts of different things like Chinese history and, um, even different forms of chemistry and understanding the world around them, wisdom, blah, 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 right? So you take that segment of history and then you look at today's world and how they teach, it's very different. Now they go to school, and school starts at this time and ends at this time. And it's a classroom where they've got like 50 people in a class, and they're all competing with each other because they know when they get out of school, they have to compete. Whoever got the highest grade gets to go to college, and whoever gets the highest grade in college gets the best jobs.
Hmm.
And so you see this evolution, right? And that's where China is right now. That's where Korea is right now. That is kind of where America is right now. However, yes. So it has yet to evolve, you ask? And I think that's the case. If you look at America right now, you see a mix of people. You see a lot of people who aren't engaged in school. And because of their home life or because of their cultural situation, they don't even try. And it's not because they see something else, it's because they see nothing in it. And then you have another mix of culture in our school system, which looks at this education system and says, this is the only way. I have to do this, or I won't have a happy life. And so then you know, they pursue it with all of their might. Then you have another group of people who look at this and say, you know what? There's my dad got a job the other day, or he got a job like 5 years ago at a company just because he walked up to the door and said, "Hey, I want a job here. I could do that." Or like, "Hey, I learned a lot more on the computer yesterday than I learned at my school. So, I don't hate education. I'm not really a fan of the way they teach it at my school." And so
Hmm.
you have a mix of all these cultures. And I think that exists in America because America is evolving,
Hmm.
is changing. Because if you look to Korea right now, you will look at their school systems and you'll say this a lot. Well, okay, you'll hear this. You look to Korea and you'll hear that Korea's got great education. And we can tell because their tests, like so many of their students are like really high grades and they learn a ton. And you say, wow, Asian people, they're brilliant. He's like, yeah, that's true. But if you lived in the Korean culture, you would understand why. It's because Koreans are fighting for their lives out there because it is such a competitive world out there in Korea. You have like 4 people or like maybe even like 16 people for every one job.
Hmm.
There is a massive population and not enough work. And that's kind of puts a lot of stress on the people in Korea because they have to compete for that um, job throughout all of like kindergarten all the way through graduation. um, but anyhow, right? America's not like that at all. But people say our school system sucks, and that's true. But it doesn't mean that our school system is worse.
Hmm.
It just means that our culture is different and
Hmm.
it acts differently on the educational system. So ultimately, all of that, right? All of that. My whole point is this is don't give up hope. You can already see that it is evolving. How will it evolve? I think that is a matter that's up to you because the only way you change a culture is by interacting with it and forming that culture by who you are and what you believe in and how strongly you're committed to and how passionate you are and how able you are to talk to people about those things, right? That's what changes things. If you look at um, women's rights movement, right? You can look at the women's rights movement and you can see, okay, it was just like it was like a really passionate people that really got it going, and that's the way it is with most things in culture. You get a few passionate people that are willing to go around and actually talk to people and be really passionate, and that starts moving things along. But um and yeah, that's true. The culture affects it, but the system also affects the culture, right? And that's very true. So how do you just change all of it? You can either do two things. You either start your own educational system and you let that catch on because that is a thing that you can do. And that's hard. Yeah, maybe it'll take a lot of money. Yeah, but that is something you can do. You either you start your own educational system, however you think it should be done, and you stick to that. You let it prove itself. And then as years go down, people will start picking up pieces of yours and they'll start changing theirs to fit yours. And then soon enough, the whole educational system in the US will be akin to what yours is if yours takes off, right? That's one way. Because otherwise, you form a monopoly and they're like, hey, no, we got to get this guy out of here because he's getting too many of the students and everybody wants to go to him because he's a good teacher or whatever, that kind of thing. But
Hmm.
people will pick up on the trade and yeah, it will progress like that. So either start your own educational system and make it really work, or B, attempt to change the educational system, like the government's deal, by becoming a part of someone who actually makes those decisions for the government, for the school system, and implementing things and arguing with people day in and day out about no, it needs to be like this. No, it needs to be like this over and over and over and over for years until you get your way.
Hmm.
That's another way you can do it. And that's how people do it in our current political system. That's how you get new laws. Sometimes you'll hear a law and you're like, that should have been a law like 20 years ago. It's like, yeah, I know I've been fighting for it for like 20 years. That's unfortunately how it is.
Mhm.
And then the third way is to change the culture. And I think you can really probably even do all three or a mix and match. But those are my best thoughts. And I'm going to turn it over to Joe.
Just like that.
Sorry.
No, that's
Um,
good. I was
fish
so focused on what you said.
sometimes, fish sometimes they swim. And now I'm going to turn it over to Joe.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, I love the stuff you were getting at in there, and it's it's very interesting, because I have two kids that are in elementary school. I have a second grader and a fifth grader, right? And so they still love learning at that age, and the stuff they're learning, we're pretty involved with the teachers and knowing what's going on and what they're learning and all that kind of stuff. And so, we try and be as active as possible in helping. And I pay very close attention to what my kids learn and how they learn it, because this is a topic that I'm also very passionate about. Now our kids go to private school, so we have a little bit more influence, because we pay their tuition. So, like, we there while there are still like some government regulations, it's we have a little bit more leeway in how those standards are met, I guess you could say. So we can take a little bit more of an active role in shaping the experience of our kids.
Because you're in a private school, right?
Right, right. So, but at any rate, so uh where to start with this whole thing? Ryan, I love one of the things Ryan said right at the end, where he's like, one thing you can do is change the culture. That's not an easy thing to do. But with technology where it's becoming more and more possible for the culture to change. We've watched culture change as a result of social media. We've
Oh, a
watched
ton.
culture change. Yeah, it's amazing. I
It's
mean,
it's the world is not what it was 20 years ago.
no,
Not at all.
no, not at all.
Not
The,
even 10
th-
years
the
ago.
the thing that's hilarious to me when I look at the whole educational system and how it's crazy to me. But for some reason, people think the answer is just throw more money at it and it'll be fine. But you're right. The government spends $650 billion on it, yet it's insufficient. I mean, yeah. And the money isn't the issue. As you said, it's the system. And also the culture that believes that the system is correct, because they don't know a different one, really. I mean, it's not people's fault. It's not like they're just snowed. A lot of people realize there's something wrong, but because it's the only system we know, because it was developed, before we were, you know, before we had any experience with a different system, we just don't know a different
I
one.
I did just think of another way, and it's right on topic, is that the school system, like you said, you can't just keep throwing money at it, right?
Hmm.
Because it hasn't changed because of that. It's just like the
Right.
same thing more.
They keep throwing more and more and just,
It could collapse.
like a bubble.
Yeah. For example, you have all of these people who just become disinterested because
Mhm.
they know there's better ways to learn out there and they utilize them. And the school system just collapses because, yeah, sure, people are throwing taxes at it, right? But no one's
Mhm.
going to school. There's no kids in it. And then the teachers are doing nothing. And then, you have a collapse because the culture's not going to be like, well, I'm not paying for these teachers to teach my kids and no one's even there.
Mhm.
So I mean, culture could get to that point. But I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm just saying that's an an interesting idea.
Mhm.
It could collapse in one way or another.
Right.
Anyways, go on.
Well,
Sorry for interruption.
well, I'll tell you what. One thing that I think is good. I watch my kids now. I watch them learn, and my kids are learning to read well. They're learning to write. They're learning to do math, basic math, not like crazy A, B, B, C calculus stuff, right? You know, but just add, subtract, multiply, divide, stuff that in my mind is useful to people. It's, like I look at reading, writing, and arithmetic, right? I mean, all that stuff, those things that you learn in elementary school, those foundational basic things carry you through the whole entire rest of your life, right? Now, you can learn other languages. That helps in, you know, with communicating with people of other nations and around the world. Um, there's all kinds of great stuff to learn. The thing that I have an issue with here, and I it's why I feel like I'm a kindred spirit with you, Brandon. Is I just look at the fact that kids go into school, they start school as in kindergarten or first grade, like wherever they start, and they have dreams, stuff they want to do, stuff they want to be. They have dreams for all this stuff, and they have a love for learning. They're like, oh, it's like showing them a whole new, existence, and they're excited about it, and there's this wonder involved, right? And the tragedy of the system that exists right now is you take a kid that's got dreams and a love of learning, and by the time they graduate high school, their dreams are dead and they can't stand learning. They don't
That's
want to
very true.
read another book. They don't want to do anything learning productive. What they want, what they've been trained to want through that system is I want to get some situation called a job where I just show up and people give me money for it. Right? I mean, I see that so much. I mean, we go from being innovators and dreaming and like, oh, the world is my oyster, if that's a thing.
Oysters are things, yeah. I learned that in school. Sorry, I didn't.
I mean, you look at that, and then you go from that to, the world stinks because there's just no jobs out there where I mean, I just need something where I just can go there and people give me money for being there. And it's like, so something happens in that system that kills dreams and kills the love of learning. And one of the things that is kind of a mission of mine is to find people that are ready to reawaken those dreams and that love of learning. People that are ready, like, and a lot of times it takes getting frustrated in your life to the point where you realize the world isn't what I was trained to believe it was. And so I got to learn something different. I got to figure something out. And then you start to learn some other stuff, and it can be exciting again. And then I remember the first time I started listening to some audios where I was, like, hey, there's all these books that I can read about how to get along with people. Like, that's one thing they never taught me in school.
Mm,
And that was one of my
yeah,
biggest deficiencies.
that's the most important thing you can learn.
I know, it's crazy. Like, I sit there and I'm like, I bought this book for $15. Taught me how to deal with people, right? And in that book, it said all the stuff you learn in college. Now, this book was written in the early 1900s, so that tells you how old the system was. He was talking about the same type of system we have today. This is over 100 years old, right? And they're like, the stuff you learn in school teaches you your trade, your profession, teaches you skills, technical abilities, and all that kind of stuff. That's about 15% of what it takes to succeed. The other 85% is your ability to deal with people. And I was like, that's literally true.
Yeah.
I'm like, what in the heck? So wait. Now, when I went to MSU, I think it was like $15,000 a semester or something. And they were going to have me there for 5 years, cram 4 years into 5, And so that's 2 semesters a year, $15,000 a semester, $30,000 a year times 5 years, $150,000 ish.
That's a lot
Right?
of money.
So $150,000 to learn 15% of what it was going to take me to succeed. And I spent $15 to learn the other 85%.
That's incredible.
It's an amazing thing. Now, Princess, you have a very, very good point. School teaches you some important lessons, and it helps with socializing too. Absolutely. You learn to get along with other people. You learn what it's like to be in an environment where other people are. And you learn some interesting stuff. You learn great lessons. And I would, like I said, my kids are in elementary school. They're learning the basic stuff, the stuff that I use daily. Reading, writing, and basic math. I got to balance my checking book. And it was crazy to me. Anyway, my brain's going in all kinds of different directions. I apologize. One thing, a person you might want to look into is a guy named Robert Kiyosaki. And he's a business author and a financial author and all that. And I'm not necessarily saying that's the direction you need to go in is business, but the reason to check this guy out is because he felt the same way about the educational system. Whereas, he didn't like being there. And not only that, but he watched his dad. He wrote a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad, where he contrasted his dad and his friend's dad. He felt like he had two dads because he spent a lot of his time with his friend's dad too. And his own dad was the head of the education system for the state of Hawaii and had the same basic rules, the same basic curriculum. Yep, Robert Kiyosaki.
Yeah, Kiyosaki is a great author.
And his real dad, his biological father, was the head of education for the state of Hawaii. He taught all the same things that we're taught in our education system all the time, and he was he worked his whole life, struggled financially, as the state of it, the head of education for the state. He struggled financially because he wasn't taught proper money management. And then when he got towards retirement age, he was let go of his position before he was able to retire, laid off, and then broke. So that was kind of his he calls it his poor dad. That was his real dad. His rich dad understood business systems, and he had an 8th grade education, I think. And he valued information. He didn't value the degree or the diploma or all that kind of stuff. That's what the the educational system we live in now. They value the degree and the diploma, and spending your time long enough and just getting by long enough so you get that achievement certificate at the end. But that's not necessarily learning. Memorizing answers so you can regurgitate them on a test, and then you can forget about them later so you can take in the next wave of information to memorize and regurgitate on a test, and then forget about it again so you can take in the next wave. It's just this ongoing cycle. And then by the end of it, you've taught yourself how to be distracted. Right? But what Kiyosaki does now, he's created an education system. Robert Kiyosaki has. And it's based on this game that he created called oh geez, what's the game called? Can't remember. Cash Flow. The game is called Cash Flow. And that was kind of the beginning. And it was, so he was like, we're gonna learn by playing a game, and it's gonna mimic what real life finances is like. But you're in a low stress environment. It's not real life money. Like, you can play and figure out this stuff, but the whole time you're learning principles that work in the real world of finance and business, right? And so he did that, and now he's got different books, and he does all kinds of events. He's a speaker, and he also has training systems and everything like that. And he's created an education system for business and finance. And you actually learn. But here's the kicker. In order to be there, you have to want to be there. So you have to want to learn something, right? So it's not like you're forced into being there. You find it, you choose to be a part of it. And the system he's created is pretty cool. But he talks about how he hates the education system the way it is because he was just bored there. And he looked at the fruits of it. He was like, the most educated people that I know, they're broke. And a lot of people that dropped out of school, they go off and they start companies and they become rich. He's like, I'm looking at this discrepancy. I'm like, there's something, not to say that being rich is everything there is out there, but our culture seems
But
to.
when that's the point of the education system, to get a job so you can have money, then it's flipped. It doesn't make sense.
Exactly. Yep, you're right. So it's weird, but the whole system's messed up, and our culture drives it and everything like that. But here's the real thing. From my perspective, I just would like to see people love learning. To not lose that's the real passion I have, because truly, people still love learning. They just want to learn what's relevant to them. Just because somebody drops out of school doesn't mean they stop learning.
Right.
I know lots of people who dropped out of school, and what they learned how to do. Some of them learned how to go sell drugs, and they got really good at it. But they learned how to do it. It was relevant to them to do that. But at any rate, so obviously I'm not condoning that lifestyle either. Hopefully nobody would take that away from this.
So that's the secret to success.
But I do want to address one thing in your post, and that's at the very end. I feel like the system is deadlocked. I don't even think governments will reform on such a scale, or on a tiny scale. And I'm glad that there's becoming more and more awareness of the system that's broken, right? And if you're the champion that's going to help reform it, man, I love you. And I hope I hope you can be successful there. I don't know the right avenues because I have a passion for this as well. But I learned something a long time ago that there's this thing called there are two circles. There's our circle of influence and our circle of interest, basically. What we're interested in and what we can influence, right? And the more those two circles line up, the better off we're going to be and the more successful we're going to be at whatever it is. So I have a great interest in changing education, but I have absolutely zero influence in the education system as a whole. So I can't really do much there because I don't have the right connections. I don't have the right, influence with the right connections. I've basically got a little bit of influence with the teachers that my kids have in school. But I still have this passion to help people learn different ways, right? And so we're like, wait, we've got the internet. We can create a media company. I'm a musician. Ryan's a musician. We like being on YouTube, you know, we like doing whatever we can. So we're like, hey, we can help by creating information and we can make it fun to learn this stuff. That's one of the reasons why I love Static P so much.
I love you too.
Because and not just as a person, because
Yeah, I know you didn't actually mean this person at all.
but I love the Static P channel and I love the material on the Static P channel because it's music that's very engaging. It's fun to listen to. It's great. And the stuff that's in there teaches you proper thinking. Teaches you how to think rationally. It's amazing how Ryan has taken this story in the Criminal Idol series and he's packed in so many life lessons in this entertaining story and done it in a way through music. To me, that's education. Because you're learning something and it's fun, you want to be there, and you're almost kind of learning it by accident. But there's so much good stuff packed in there.
Thanks, Joe.
And so that's a way to be educated. I see the chat. There's all this stuff about selling drugs. Great. I opened up a world of hurt there. But anyway, so Brandon, thank you so much for posting this. And I hope there's a way we can fix the education system. I really do. I hope there's a way that we can, move things in the right direction. I don't know who's going to do it necessarily. But if you're it, man, and if you have the right connections, it sounds to me like you know some professors talking about this. Maybe you can work with some of them. Maybe there's a way to do it. Maybe there's a way for you to work through those channels to kind of make some changes in that system. And I would love to see that.
Mm-hmm.
But I know for me, I don't have influence in those directions. So we can do what we can through creating media and, trying to do the best we can to help influence culture. But anyway, I'm sorry. I went on for a way long time, but I'm pretty passionate about this topic. So Ryan, did you have anything else that you need to say?
Sure. Yeah, Brandon, it seems like you've got the passion to do it. So I'd say you might think, well, yeah, I got the passion. The only thing I need to do is figure out how to do it. Right? But I think you're already doing it. What I would suggest is figure out how the system works, then get in it, and then mess with it.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's really how you do anything in life. You want to be a musician? If you're like, oh, I don't know how to get in. Okay, cool. So, do you know how to play an instrument? No, never touched one. I don't know, like, cause I don't know how to actually become like a famous musician. So I never actually touched an instrument. Well, do you sing? No, I don't do anything musically. Oh, right. So that doesn't make sense. Obviously, right? The way you change something is you get in there and you start working at it, right? You got a broken bike. You get in there and you work on your bike. That's how you fix it. You get your hands dirty. You take your hands and you work the chains and you're like, wow, now my hands are all greasy. But I learned something, right? So how do you change the educational system? If you want an interesting route, there's a lot of different routes you can take. You can create your own. You can sabotage it. You can do lots of different stuff. But one way is to get involved in the actual process to um, become one of the people who make up the decisions there. I know that, a lot of schools have school boards. Don't get involved with that. That has nothing to do with school. I can tell you that much. It
Has something
doesn't
to do with
change.
being bored, though.
Yeah, it doesn't really change a whole lot of the educational system. It's, yeah. I would say you figure out a way to get to the top and start making the changes there. So, um, how do you do that? Maybe do a little bit of research, figure out who makes the decisions. How do I become that person? Who do I have to start talking to?
Mhm.
Start talking to people. Start talking to, professors at your college, start talking to whoever you know or whoever you don't know that is that profession or gets close to that profession or leads to that profession. And you can find your way through person to person to person contact to getting that spot. As long as you can um, be good at dealing with people, like Joe was talking about earlier, 85% of any job is actually just people skills. A lot of times, that's true in most jobs.
Mhm.
Because what is the job there to do? To serve another human being. If you can make your way, I mean, a lot of people get their jobs by knowing somebody,
Mhm.
not necessarily knowing the skill, but by knowing somebody who works the job. And that person
Mhm.
goes, yeah, I got my friend who he probably knows how to, whatever, we can teach him. You know, most people out there who make a lot of money, they start their own business and they're really good with people, or they find their way into a really good business and they happen to be really good friends with the guy who set up the whole business. But anyways, right? There's always a way to get involved. And if you have the passion to do that, you just have to find your way through it. And the way you find your way through it is just start doing it.
Mhm.
Just start. Just start. How do you do that? Well, what's like one step that you can take that you can think you can do right now? Just take that step. Talk to somebody.
Mhm.
Ask somebody a question. Go to the internet and look up online. Figure out who those people are. Where do they live? Start making those steps. Where do they live? Knock on their door. Have a conversation. Sit down for pizza. Make a friend.
Mhm.
Change the system. That's how you do it. I mean, like, there's many ways you do it, but that's that's one of the ways that you work your way into something and you start making things different.
Mhm. Ryan shared this same advice with the Black Static and Swerve staff at one of our recent conference calls. It really inspired me a lot, actually, because he asked. Ryan is like our only full time like staff member where he this is the only thing he does. And every other one of us has a job outside of Black Static and Swerve that we need to make money and everything like that. Um, but we were talking about stuff. We want to create more people with the opportunity to be full time, right?
Definitely.
That this is their full time gig, right? And so one of the things Ryan said that stuck with me so much and it inspired me to do a lot of the things that I'm doing right now And where we're headed is, he said, so when you're full time at Black Static and Swerve, what is it that you want to be doing when you're here? And he's like, whatever that is, start doing it. Just start doing it now. You don't have to be doing it full time, but just start doing it. And I was like, oh, that's really genius.
Because then you make a spot for yourself.
You do, absolutely. And that's, yeah. So whatever it is that you want to do this, just start doing the actions. And I was like, wow. Okay.
Well, I'm glad that, because when I said that, I didn't get any response other than Kyle going, like, yeah, that's a good idea, but Ryan, that's not really what I'm talking about. And I was like, yeah, that's true.
Oh,
And I was like, cool.
that drilled its
I didn't
way
feel
into
bad,
my
by the way.
head.
I was just like, all right, you're right, Kyle. Yeah, it's not exactly what you're talking about. So it's cool.
Well,
Just thought I had to say that for some reason. So I'm glad that it at least made an impact of some sort.
that's the only thing I remember from that entire conference call, actually.
Nice. We did a lot of that conference call. We set up that whole spreadsheet and everything like that.
I know. I don't even remember it. I just
Yeah,
remember that you
that's all right.
said. I do, actually, because I look at it all the time.
Yeah,
But
it's good.
yeah, Sparrow. No, that's not the last. That's not the last topic. We're gonna do yours too.
Cool. Yeah, let's move to the next topic. Thank you so
Yeah,
much,
Brandon.
Brandon, for
Wow.
sharing this whole thing with us. We know that it's a bigger deal than just us, and talking about it doesn't necessarily make it happen, but hopefully we can inspire you to start making it happen,
Mhm.
finding that path that you want to take to get there.
Yeah, and man, wow. I hope you stick with us some, and at least stay in contact. I'd love to hear what's going on. I'd
Yeah.
love to hear updates and everything that's happening in that world. So thank you.
Too.
So yes, so we will move on to Sparrows. This will probably be the last one that we do tonight, though. We did start a little bit late, so we'll go a little bit late too.
All right.
Where are we at here? Oh, Princess posted the link. Princess posted the link. Thanks, Princess.
Thank you, Princess.
All right. So
this is also school.
Yeah. Everything. Well, 'tis the season, I suppose.
Yeah, that's true. To be jolly.
But
oh wait, no, to be schooling.
This is okay. I'm just gonna read it, and it's okay, Princess. Hey, it's just a fun little game I play. Can I beat Princess?
Yeah, because Princess is so good. It's hard to beat her.
Yep. So anyway, all right. So this is about school. It's from Sparrow, and it goes like this. Sparrow is here. The last time I posted in Don't Worry Wednesday was a few weeks ago. Everything is going well, but anxiety is starting to take over. I usually take to writing, but homework is taking way too long to get the writing in. It also doesn't help that I'm not getting enough sleep. P.S. I signed up for this mentoring program. It's starting next week, so that may help. Sparrow is gone.
Sparrow's here, Sparrow's gone.
Yep.
Nice.
So yeah,
Sparrow
thank
has
you.
taken flight. He's now fleeting.
Thank you for posting, Sparrow. And I understand anxiety a lot. I understand stress and concern and all that, and being busy. So I feel your pain. And also, I understand not getting enough sleep. And
me too.
And you posted just before that you were gonna go to bed, and so I tell you what, we won't keep you too long. But because yes, sleep is definitely an important thing to at least get somewhat adequate amounts of. So Ryan, I will turn it over to your capable microphone.
Yeah. Check, check. Mic test. Yep, it's capable. um, yeah, Sparrow. I just want to let you know that we're proud of you, and uh, and you're an impressive individual. Don't don't stress yourself out, right? It doesn't do your body very well. I know it doesn't really help for me to say this, but um, there's a such thing as becoming sick due to stress, um, and anxiety and things like that. So, um, not saying that you're going to get there, but my point is stress, worrying, and getting anxious and all this stuff, kind of stuff doesn't really help us in the long run. So, because we can do the same things when we're stressed as when we're not stressed, except for when we're not stressed, we do them a lot better with a clear mind, and we can focus and not freak out, and everything just seems to work better, right?
Mm.
Um, a lot of times, a lot of times, the reason things work better when we are at peace is because when things aren't going wrong, we're at peace. So, of course, they're working better because nothing is going wrong. All right. Does that make sense so far? When things aren't being weird, things aren't messed up, when things are going exactly as you hoped, when everything is fine, of course we're at peace. And that's when things are easy and that's how we like them.
Mhm.
And then when things get stressful, everything's harder.
Mhm.
When you get anxious, everything becomes harder. You start fighting yourself, right? Because things aren't going smoothly, because things aren't how you want them to be. So, my major suggestion here is maybe an obvious one, but you don't have to have everything going your way to be at peace.
Mm.
In fact, true peace comes from the acknowledgement that things aren't going your way, that things aren't right, and yet you are still satisfied. How are you satisfied? Being thankful. I think that's one of the main keys to peace and to destroying that despairing feeling or anxiety is being thankful.
Mm.
If you can learn to be thankful in the moment for the moment, then um, it's a lot easier to be peaceful. Because if you come to understand that you don't need to have things come your way, you don't have to have things be your way or how you like them or how you think they should be in order to be happy, in order to be at peace. When you realize that, then anxiety doesn't get the best of you, right? Because then you're like, wait a minute, it's all just my attitude. It's how I feel.
Mm.
And you know what? I don't see any point in being upset. I don't see any point in being anxious. I'm just going to relax and let things go however they go. One of the greatest skills in life. Now, this is an interesting thing because animals don't have this skill, but humans do. One of the greatest skills in life is improvisation.
Mm.
As a human being, if you can learn to improvise, if you can trust yourself to improvise in any moment, you'll say, you know what? I'll figure it out. You know what? I can do it. I'll f- I'll improvise my way through it. I'll figure it out as I go. Not saying it's going to be perfect, but I'll get through it because I'm going to make it up as I go and we'll get there.
Mhm.
And if you can believe in yourself to do that, then you're not going to have a problem with anxiety so much because then you will trust in yourself and it's a lot easier to be at peace. So, if you feel like, you're having anxiety issues, if you're worried, just trust that you can get through it. Build up your talent in improvisation. Because you were made a human which is capable of improvisation. Animals, insects, etc., they have a brain that automatically has a set reaction to everything. And that reaction can change through training, but it starts off one way specifically. Humans don't necessarily have that. Animals might not have that for everything, but they have it for most things. Humans don't have it for most things. Humans learn along the way. And I think that's important, realizing that we're just learning along the way. So there's nothing to be anxious about. That's what we've been doing since we've been born as babies. It's never been easy. Figuring out how to walk, it's never been easy. It wasn't. You just don't remember it. But it was hard. And everything's been like that. And you're still making it so far. You should be proud of yourself. And I know I'm proud of you. So just keep on struggling your way through it, man. It's okay to struggle. It's okay. You know, courage is something that's incredibly important. But courage is not something you can receive from anybody. You can receive encouragement, maybe inspired to have courage, to be strong. But courage is a virtue that is practiced in the act of actually doing it. It's like a talent. You become good at an instrument by playing the instrument. You become good at being courageous so that you can get through any tests, so you can get through any problem or struggle or workload, or just, sometimes you just have to do something, right? Courage is really important. And the way you gain courage is by just acting out courage, by doing courageous things. But anyways, I've already run a little long, so we keep it short. So I'm gonna let it go to Joe.
I love how Ryan was talking about, the anxiety portion of this, because that's probably, I would bet that's probably the most difficult part of the whole situation. I mean, yeah, you've got homework and writing, and you like writing, but your homework is taking way too long, and you're not getting enough sleep. Those things are all issues. But the anxiety one, that's the one that's kind of the key. Now, yeah,
that's the tone for all the other ones.
Yep. All of the other issues feed that anxiety, and when all those other ones pile up on you, the anxiety increases for sure. I know that it was really interesting. I recently had an experience where, there was a lot of stuff piling up on me, and stress from so many different forms, and I'm feeling and pulled in a lot of different directions, and stuff being piled up on me, and tasks to do, and places to be, and things that had to be accomplished. And I was like, and I was in the middle of my workday. Actually, I was driving around doing inspections, and I was like, okay, I got to do this, and I got to get all these inspections done, and da 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 da. And I'm like,
at least you didn't have insurance losses.
huh?
At least you didn't have insurance losses.
I do, actually.
Oh,
I've got
do you?
5 of them right now.
Oh man,
it's stressing me out. Anyway, but I had all these things piling up, and there was anger starting to boil, and I was just kind of like simmering with this tension and anger and all of this, right? And I finally, I was like, wait a second. For me, I prayed. I took that stress, because that's a form of pain, right? And I offered it as a sacrifice.
That's often what I do too. That helps me the most is when yeah. I just like when I notice myself, like I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go pray.
Hmm. Yep. Sparrow says, plus the fact that I'm behind on two 100-point projects. I understand. But here's the real thing, right? Because all these things were happening and they were stressing me out and making me upset, right? But it wasn't the things. It was my response to them. The stress was my response. And I didn't realize that I was choosing that response. All the things are swirling around happening and they will cause stress for you. You know, they were causing stress for me. When I finally sat back and I was able to just like when I prayed and I was like, wait a second, you know what? This is an opportunity for me to grow. This is an opportunity for me to learn some things, to figure some things out. And what started to happen at that moment was I started to put things in their proper perspective. And I'm like, wait a second. I'm here and I've got all these things that need to be done. Yes. You know what? I'm going to do the best I possibly can. But I'm also going to not let the stress be in my way, because the anxiety and the stress, that's going to hinder my ability to do the things I need to do that are stressing me out, right? Like the stress itself is going to like slow me down. So I also need to do the things that relieve that stress. Rest, like you were talking about, not getting enough sleep, that's one thing. It can relieve stress to sleep. It can relieve stress to do some kind of physical activity. It can relieve stress to do the writing you're talking about, you know, where you're actually writing creatively, doing those things, right? All of those things, those are important. In my case, prayer, offering that stress up as a sacrifice, you know, like those things were assistance to me in order to relieve the stress, so then I could do the tasks that I needed to do much more effectively, because I didn't have the stress. I didn't have the anger. I didn't have all that boiling, right? So take those moments, and it was funny, I just sat there and I listened to like 4 or 5 songs, you know? I just sat in this driveway of this vacant house, and I just put my headphones in, and I listened to like 5 songs, and I just sat there. And I was just like, "I'm gonna take this 15, 20 minutes, and I'm gonna let it just let all that stuff melt." That's an important thing to do. And I think it's great that you signed up for the mentoring program. And
Hmm.
you know, keep us posted on how that's going, because I think
Yeah.
that's another very important thing, to have a person you can talk to that's outside perspective.
Hmm.
Um, but those are all things that are going to help you manage all the stuff that's going on. Because yeah, it's good to be an achiever. It's good to try and accomplish stuff. But when all that piles up on you and it starts to cause the stress is going to slow you down in the accomplishing of that stuff. So you also need to find the things that can relieve the stress so that you can be effective in those other things. And I see you posted the only thing that's keeping you going is in December. Well, December's getting closer and closer.
Hmm.
And I know we're reaching the time when you said you had to get going. So I don't want to stop you from going and getting some sleep, some much
Yeah.
needed and deserved sleep.
Deserved. Oh,
So
sweet. Love you too, Joe.
yeah, we were talking about you tonight, Joe.
Yeah.
Just so you know, it was all good stuff. But anyway, Sparrow, you know we love you here, and I hope you keep coming back, and I hope that you can do those things. You know, just do those things that are. Oh, you're going to a camp in December. That's great.
Oh, that's awesome.
To have something to look forward to, that can definitely help
Oh yeah,
relieve the
absolutely.
stress. So for sure. So Sparrow, you're awesome. Thanks for being here, and good luck. Keep us posted and follow up. And yeah, feel free to DM either Ryan or I anytime. So we'll get back to you as soon as we possibly can. But I don't check my Discord very often. But
Yeah.
I'm on BSS.studio a lot
Discord.
more. So if you private message me on BSS.studio, I will get it much faster than on Discord.
Cool. There you go.
So, and that goes for anybody here that wants to send a private message. You can, yes, like Princess says, you can send us a message on Discord. I'm on Discord much less than I'm on BSS.studio. So if you're a member of BSS.studio, just click that little mailbox. Look for Joe, CDVNL. Send me a message. You can look for Static P. You can send him a message. And yeah, that's probably the best way to send me a private message, is right there. So, and Ryan too, even if Ryan doesn't really know it yet. That's the best way to get Ryan a private message.
Well, I just sent you one, so.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
You're welcome. Figured since we were talking about it, I would do it. You said you can send me a message, so I said, okay, I will, in my head, and then I did that. So you have a message for me.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll read it as soon as we're done with this show.
It will be quick. Definitely wasn't long.
Well, you didn't have much time to type.
Yeah, I didn't have much time, so I was just like, all right, I'm doing that. Pretty sure there's like one word in it. So yeah.
Yep. So anyway, hey, I just got a notification actually. You have a new personal message.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
How many words are in it?
I don't know. Doesn't say.
Cool. Wow. All right.
Just I got the notification saying I have a message. Even made the cool BSS.studio noise. Blink or whatever.
Blink. Yeah, it's such a cool noise.
Blink.
Every once in a while I'll get that. I'd be like, oh yeah, that's BSS.studio. It's cool.
That's the BSS.studio noise.
Nice sound. I like that sound.
Yep. The notification noise. You should register and be a member of BSS.studio.
Just to hear
for the noise.
Yeah.
The notification noise.
Yeah. Send someone a private message so you can hear that noise.
Yep. If you send a private message, send me a private message. I will message you back. You can hear the noise.
There you go.
Yeah. So
cool. Well,
anyway, with that, we will I think we'll wrap up this this episode of Don't Worry Wednesday. I so much appreciate every single one of you coming out tonight. Like most of you are probably at your homes on your computer. Thank you for joining us.
There you go.
On the stream.
Thanks for coming out tonight to our concert. It's been a good show.
Sorry, you know, I've been a stage performer for so long.
Yeah, I used to be a stage performer.
Did a lot of gigs.
Mm-hmm.
But
and a lot of Freebirds.
It's part of it. Oh my gosh,
dude,
I can't even count.
You're reggae Freebird or whatever. Is it reggae?
Oh yeah,
probably reggae.
That's the word of the day. Reggae Freebird.
Reggae Freebird is the best Freebird. Yep.
We did that one time. People were saying, play Freebird, because that's what happens when you play bar shows in Michigan. Everybody wants to hear Freebird. Play Freebird. So we did it reggae style.
I would love that's so awesome.
They did not like it.
I would have loved it.
The people that requested it did not like it.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. I think I don't care about Freebird enough to like be like, oh, you ruined the song. I would be like, that's awesome. Straight up.
Yep. So anyway, thank you guys so much for being here. We'll see you next
Yeah,
week on Don't Worry Wednesday. You'll have a much better
thanks.
host. Uh,
No, he'll be like the
it'll be Static P.
same but different.
Be awesome. Akil, yes, people are critics. They certainly are.
Mm-hmm.
Don't pay attention to them. But don't even ignore them.
Nice. Nice.
So, all right. Well, on that note, you guys are amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you all for being here. We'll see you next
Much love.
time.
See you guys. Bye-bye.
Oh, one more announcement.
Oh, there's no there's gonna be no darn I'm learning this right now. Apparently there's gonna be
Yep. We've got a
no
producer
Don't Worry
speaking
Wednesday
in our
next Wednesday.
ear.
I don't know if you
Next
guys can hear him.
Wednesday is a bye week for Don't Worry Wednesday.
Yeah, there's no Don't Worry Wednesday next week, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
He'll be driving.
We will be producerless.
Yeah. 12-hour
Part
driving.
of the
Nice.
part of the server move is Jesse driving across the United States from one part of it to another part of it.
You could say that and literally drive a foot. Hey, what are you doing this weekend? Oh, I'm driving across the US from one part to another part. Really? Before, like, where are you going? I'm just like in my driveway. What?
Yep.
Yeah. Anyways.
Yep. So anyway, so next Wednesday we won't be here, but we'll be here for the following Wednesday. So make sure you ring the notification bell. So then next time we're here,
Yes.
you will get
Thanks
notified.
to Princess. Thanks to Jesse for producing. You guys are awesome and we love you. Thanks to Joe for being an awesome host. And thank you to you guys, all of you who've listened in, who've communicated in the chat, participating in that way, or just being yourself. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And send us a message.
Mm-hmm.
We love you guys.
Yep. We love you. See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.